Tell me that.
Okay, guys, we're now live. We're broadcasting.
Oh, we're recording too.
Yeah, we've got a 0 viewers.
Woohoo!
For anybody watching, this is the first live episode of the Fedora UK podcast. We're also doing it over Google Hangouts. Probably better if I look at the camera. I'm Paul.
Hi, Paul.
Well, I think we'll just do introduction. So I'm Paul. You might know me as Moodoo from the Fedora UK channel. And we've got some other reprobates here as well. So if you just take a few minutes to introduce yourself.
I'll go. Okay, Mark dude, on IRC, Mark Terranova, in Northern California. I do all kinds of things with stuff in Fedora.
Jonathan, do you want to go next?
Yeah, I'm John, or Jonah, in IRC. I'm UK Fedora ambassador. Frequent the UK channel, so hi.
James?
My name is James Smith, otherwise known as Smithix from Fedora UK. And I do loads of bits and bobs, not just one thing, loads of bits and bobs. I'm also Moodoo's boss.
Thought that was his wife.
David, your final.
My name's Dave, otherwise known as Cublai, on various IRC channels on the internet. Wow.
We've got a viewer. Hello.
Hello.
Matt.
Hello.
I was just, I hang out in the Fedora channel when I don't want to work, and that's quite often. And I'm a Linux engineer.
So just had Matt come in the room. Hello, Matt. Are you all right?
Yeah, I'm not bad. How are you?
Yeah, good. Good.
Have you just woke up, Matt?
No. I work from home, so I only comb my hair on special occasions.
Jammy Git, you got hair.
No. Have you seen
I only brushed my hair because I was talking to you fancy folks, so I like partially did some things.
I washed mine tonight.
I'm there. I'm almost there. I've got a 5 head, not a 4.
We was talking with Jonathan earlier on, and we've got this hack pad that we're supposed to look at to show notes and all that kind of stuff, but I think only me and Jonathan looking at it has got access to it. Are you on it, James, now, looking at it?
No, I'm just looking for it now. Where's it supposed to be?
Did you send a link in? Send a link in the Ubuntu. I mean, in the Ubuntu. Yeah, in the Fedora UK channel.
I don't know. Do you have to? Oh yeah, there it is. Yeah, Jonathan's done it.
Because yeah, I'm just if you otherwise it's opening another window for me, as there'll be 2 of me and one's enough.
Hands up if you're actually doing this from Fedora on your machine.
I am this week. There's no more Mac.
My Fedora machine's at work. Sorry, I'm on Mac OS. Worst
Get out.
operating system.
Get out.
Just go, mate. Just go.
Oh, wait. Has Mark buggered off?
Yeah, I think I was actually speaking to Kublai. Do you have to sign into this? Oh, it's alright.
Yeah, I sent you an invite last week about it.
Are you on IRC, Matt?
I can see you in now.
I am.
I'm logged in at work. I'm not at home.
Right.
So have you heard the latest about the Debian developers? Apparently,
what?
one of them posted a rant on the Debian developers list about how Linus Torvald should be banned from Debian comps. because Linus had to go at the Free Software Foundation, but said it was simply his own opinion. He didn't expect anyone to agree with him. And there was this huge, long thing with many Debian or Debian developers threatening to quit Debian, as usual.
They asked him to go, though, was my thing. Having a lot of Debian friends, they asked him to go, and one of the questions they asked was, have you used Debian since you last said you weren't going to use it? And he said no. And I'm not defending him because he's definitely got enough people willing to do that, let alone people who are attacking him. But, yeah, it wasn't surprising to ask someone like that and then be shocked at their results was sort of my take on it. And as is, a lot of my friends said, Linus is speaking, this is going to be interesting. And it was. I mean, if you were surprised, you're not paying attention. That's like some other people saying shocking things. It just happens. But yeah, no, I agree. It's been interesting to watch that and see people.
It kind of got blown up out of proportion. We have a couple of developers for Debian in the office, and they were all sticking up for Linus and saying the guy who actually posted the initial thing on the Debian list had actually stood up during Linus's talk and asked him really annoying questions and been generally pretty horrible to him. So it appears he has sort of like a prior motive.
Yeah, that sounds, yeah. All right, let's pass
It's all
fun
fun and
opening.
games. Linus never knows when to be quiet, and that's I love Linus. He's just so funny.
That's what's cool about
I've
him.
seen some of his emails to other kernel developers, and they're quite harsh.
Well, there was the GCC thing last month, wasn't there? Where he was, what was it? He said that he shouldn't have graduated kindergarten.
Is he still using Fedora? I don't know what OS he's using at the minute. Last time I heard he was.
Yeah, Fedora, I
He
think.
was still ranting about GNOME 3, so.
Everybody rants about GNOME 3.
GNOME 3.
Well, the thing that was, the reaction that I got from some people was they weren't really surprised that he said the stuff about Debian, but they were more surprised about how guarded and how reserved he was on his comments on System D. He paused about that. He didn't pause about his emails and being rude and doing the things, some of the stuff he's known for. But the System D thing, which is our new, well, it is what it is something that he paused on. So that was something I think that a lot of people, after the dust sort of settled, is what I've seen as a reaction from some of my friends in Debian leadership that sort of see it that way, that was interesting. It's the System D thing that he has some, well, we'll see on that.
Loads of people just don't like System D and just don't want to swap over.
Who is Linus 12 Olds anyway?
Yeah, I think he wrote.
Invented the Mac.
I think he wrote Minix, something called Minix. I don't know what came of that.
Never heard of it.
Yeah. And has no plans for the 486, I think, or something like that.
It's a hobbyist system. Yeah,
It
was actually Red Hat that invented Linux.
It's Kublai, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was me. Yeah, in my basement.
From a Mac.
Coding it all in assembler.
Yeah, I think you're giving me too much credit there for my ability.
Anyway, there's nothing wrong with GNOME 3.
I agree.
I
agree.
I didn't like it until, and I'm really late to the party, when I discovered extensions not gnome.org. and that's really sad.
I'm of the opinion that GNOME 3, well, suckage, for lack of a better way to put it, was perfectly timed between Fedora and Ubuntu, almost as if they had a phone call of like, let's be crappy for a while and let KDE have its moment in the sun. And part of the reason I'm still talking about that is because I think that time has passed, and I got to say, at least on the Fedora side and possibly other parts of the distro universe, I'm really more proud of Fedora and what we've done on implementing GNOME 3 and other desktops than I've been since I first joined with F14 and its awesomeness. That we've, with a lot of road bumps and stuff, have gotten from where there's a lot varied opinion, and now most people are able to go, yeah, it may not be my thing, but they've got a lot of the stuff smooth. And I think it's taken a lot of hard work for a lot of people to do that, and that's great. Speaking as someone who spoke really bad about it and is now very happy to be saying it's much more enjoyable now. That's good, you know.
I've got no problem with it. I think it's absolutely brilliant. Integration is brilliant. I mean, the looks throughout the desktop is just brilliant. And with 312, they've got it bang on, absolutely bang on.
312, fantastic.
I agree. I mean, I'm basically a GNOME 3 user through sheer laziness. It's basically because it's the default thing that comes with my system. That's what I use. So I've used it since its introduction, and yeah, it's just gotten better with every release. I agree with that.
Yeah, we'll see.
I work for a Linux consultancy, and everyone there's on GNOME apart from one guy who works in sales is on Unity. And that's because we didn't want to complicate things. Well, I suppose GNOME 3 would have complicated things less for him, but he'd come from a Windows environment, so he needed like a start menu sort of thing. But with the tweak tool, I mean, you can do anything with that. You can. I mean, the wobbly windows are a bit shit though. I'm really disappointed with that. The wobbly windows extension really needs some work on it.
That's just eye candy though, isn't it? You don't need that to get work done. But, it used to be pretty good wobbly windows.
Wobbly windows?
Oh,
What about the gears and the dolphins
see
inside of
compass.
it? Is this 5 years ago? Are we just talking this stuff? I'm just saying. I mean, not to be that guy, but
Wobbly windows.
I love eye candy as much as anyone. But yeah, this gears and compiz and riding with flames whilst raindrops are happening on the screen.
Whilst spinning your key.
Flashbacks are.
Desktop.
But not to bash Ubuntu and Unity, but there's no comparison, because when I use Unity, and I've got quite a powerful i7 laptop, it just feels sluggish in comparison to GNOME 3. It's ridiculous how fast GNOME 3 and Fedora is. So that's why I'm sticking with Fedora from now on.
James, can I just ask though, have you got 3D compositing working? And have you got any messages from NVIDIA while we're live here?
No, I've had... And NVIDIA has not responded to any of my tweets or emails or anything. And I just can't find the problem. To be honest, I've tried Ubuntu GNOME, Fedora, and the only operating system it works in is actually Ubuntu with Unity. So it installs fine. I think it might have something to do with GDM. I'm going to try and install LightDM on Fedora just to see if it is a problem. But I've gone from switching off secure boot to see if that's an issue. But I've done everything you can imagine. Even Moodoo will tell you that I've done everything that I can, and it's just beat me.
Except for buying a ThinkPad, where it works perfectly.
Yeah, well, I've got dual graphics cards, so at the moment I'm just running on Intel. So, but it does the job, but it's just not as obviously good as having the NVIDIA there as a backup if I want to play some hardcore Linux games like Beneath the Steel Sky.
So what is the best Linux game at the moment then?
No idea.
Super Tux Racer.
Oh, what's that other one? Is it Pingus? Is it Pingus? It's like Lemmings clone.
With penguins?
Yeah, pretty good. Pingus. And Hedge Wars. Hedge Wars is absolutely amazing.
I still love VVVV.
Yeah.
VVVV.
You've got a few V's. Now, you want to check out Hedge Wars?
Okay.
I have heard some decent stuff about Steam and people using Ubuntu as far as Linux gaming goes. I'm not really majorly into games myself, but although it's of course, has some limitations. I think that's sort of good for the ecosystem on people having options and not just having to virtual machine things. And I think eventually some of that's going to spread out a little more. But I think that developers are even paying attention to the word Linux. Even if the distro itself ignores the word Linux, I think that's a good thing.
Well, I mean, Good Old Games are really coming on board with it now, aren't they? They're running everything in things like DOSBox, so things will just run on Linux.
Yeah, I think it's getting better.
And Steam's fantastic. We our lug, we did a demo of the Steam box not long ago. Just an install on a vanilla x86 machine, and it just runs like a dream. It's brilliant.
Yeah, you see a lot of love for Linux gaming on the Linux Action Show, and they tend to review a couple of games every show, and it's really come on leaps and bounds since we were all hacking at Wine to try and get World of Warcraft running.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Speaking of those guys, there, I don't know if anyone saw when they had Fedora project lead Matt on Linux Action Show, and he was primarily talking about Fedora Next and what we have with that and what's going to be going on. And the other thing is that I've been talking to them. They're going to interview me probably for the F21 release. So I want to do some practice with some marketing folks and other people so that I'm a little more spot on with the interview for doing things. But they've got a pretty good thing going there with what they do. I really like the Linux Action folks. They have a nice mix of people, and they're very Fedora friendly.
Cool.
Yeah, they're big on Arch, but they're not. They used to be the Ubuntu Action Show. Then they all moved to Arch, and now they tend to cover most distros.
Yeah, they got a BSD guy and, and stuff like that. They do some interesting stuff. I like that they have a sense of humor when they do their thing and, yeah, all that kind of stuff.
So, speaking of OSs, I've just been reading an interesting article about Elementary OS in the this month's Linux Voice, and they're talking about how they want to lessen the choice that Linux users have. As previously we've had too much, and it's led to, well, too much forking, a bit of a messy desktop, that kind of thing. And they're trying to do their own thing with their own app store and stuff like that, and they're going to have their own process whereby you have to submit apps to their store that have to fit in with the OS.
Yeah, everything's written on Valor, I think. I'm sure they insist on writing everything in Valor. But no one knows Valor.
Yeah, what is Valor? Is that the language?
Yeah, it's Gnomes. I think it's Gnomes, isn't it? If you type in Valor in GNOME development, there's tons about it. But I think it's the language is developed by GNOME. A few things have been developed with Valor. I've just been looking at it today because I'm just trying to create an app myself, but I just can't decide on a language at the moment. So, yeah, it does look good.
Have any of you tried Elementary?
Yeah, it's pretty good. I did have to turn off EFI to get it to run, but I thought it was pretty good. Still a bit buggy, but they've got the right idea for ICANN there. From people like you, Mac users.
Yeah, it does look very OS-X-y.
Yeah, but it does look very pretty, but it's not for me at the moment.
Does it run NVIDIA?
I can't swear.
FPL did an interview on the 25th on the Register. I just shared it in the pad, where he talks about the waning of distro stars because of GitHub, because of the packaging, the whole simplifying it and that sort of thing, and how do distros fit into this thing?
That was where he was saying that the distro's getting boring, isn't he? I was reading that the other day. It's quite an interesting point, isn't it? Because I mean, the distro is boring these days. It's what goes on top of it that's the interesting bit. And GitHub really is winning that kind of war, really, because it's allowing the collaboration where sort of the OS is polished, isn't it?
Yeah.
Whereas the next step is for people to use the OS, and that's where GitHub does win, I think.
Mm-hmm. It's like any OS. It's just persuading the people to use it.
Yeah.
You know, if they don't want to change, they're not going to use it, and then it just fails.
I mean, the cool thing for me about GitHub is Mac users, Windows users also use GitHub, and they get to see the open source element and think, yeah, I'll look into this a little bit more, and then maybe progress on to using Linux as a distro if it takes the fancy, and then they see things like Steam where they can play the games, and it kind of just snowballs from there, in my eyes anyway.
I think that's correct, and that's where I think it's good, no matter what your product is, to step away from your project and realize when you're doing a Penguin family thing, or you're doing what I really believe in, which is some of the free culture, Creative Commons, where I'd love you to use Linux, but I'd rather that if you're creating a beautiful thing, you put it on a Creative Commons license so people can share it. If you're making it on a Windows machine, a Mac, or anything else, that's more important. Then we get to Linux, and I'll show you how to use Puppy Linux if that works on your old hardware, or something that works with a different distro is secondary. I think sometimes I know I have to remind myself to step away from Fedora. Is not boring to me now. I'm so excited about it, but I can see from the outside how people would be almost bored with it. You know, what are we saying? Hey, it works, it's stable, it's neat, and it's shiny, and it's polished, and that's true, but it's a lot of the other things that make it awesome, not
yeah, I mean,
it works.
For like you and me and us guys, it is different because we see everything that goes into Fedora, and that is the exciting bit for me. Is seeing all the new technologies going in, the way we change into things like Systemd, the way we change to GNOME 3, the way that KDE changes, progresses over the years, and that is exciting still for me. But for average Joe, it's an operating system.
It's a complete change. I mean, anytime I show somebody, you know, Fedora, Ubuntu, whatever, you know, what I get is, well, it's not Windows, is it? and that
for my grandma, it was, I get to ignore most of the virus warnings that I see on TV. I've never been at, oh, there's no viruses, because that's stupid. But since we're not the low-hanging fruit, what my grandma knows is from her running Linux on her machines, we run from Mint to now she's actually using Ubuntu on some of her stuff with Mate. But she just knows, she doesn't even care. Now that's a selling point, is it's not Windows. It's all she cares about, and her make or break app, believe it or not, was Solitaire. Microsoft Solitaire. Despite everything else we had, once we had that and that was running through Wine, she has never looked back. All she knows is it works for Facebook and her newly acquired Twitter account, which is pretty good for a woman in her 80s. Anyway.
Awesome.
I have the same issue with my father, Mark. Countless times he's been sending out emails with viruses to people because his account's been hacked, gone on his machine, done a Malwarebytes scan or something, and it's turned up something like 500 viruses or something like that on his machine. Trojans, key loggers, all sorts of things. He's also coincidentally had his credit card details stolen 2 or 3 times over the past 2 or 3 years. And at first when I contacted him and said, you need to change your passwords, he was like, well, what? I've got nothing on my machine that a hacker would have any interest in. And I'm like, I'm sure he doesn't want to look at your cat pictures, but I'm sure he'd be interested in your credit card and your online identity.
Or just might be interested in the machine altogether.
Yeah, or using it for DDoSes or whatever. It's
nice botnet edition.
And my sister was the same. When my dad sent out these emails, I told my sister to change her password because she'd started sending them out, and she'd clicked on some links that he'd sent her. And she started laughing and said, oh, I've got nothing to worry about. I've got nothing of interest to anyone. And this is the kind of mentality that you're dealing with non-IT users who are perhaps a little bit older as well, which I'm not sure if age is the issue or whether they're Luddites or something like this. But it's quite frustrating, and I offered my dad a copy of Linux, and he said it would be too complicated for him because he doesn't have any understanding of it. And it's quite frustrating having to fix all these problems for your family all the time down to security issues.
Just divorce them.
Yeah, I mean, I went through a similar thing with my father-in-law a few years ago, and I basically, he kept saying, will you fix my laptop, will you fix my laptop, I've got this virus, I've got that virus, the usual story. And I said to him, look, you've got 3 strikes and you're out. 3 strikes, after that I said, I'm installing Fedora. Oh, what's Fedora, will I be able to use it? And I just did it, I took his laptop off him and installed Fedora, and he's never looked back, and he's been running Fedora since I think it was 18. So and he's quite happy with it, and like you say, he's not worried about the virus. He can quite happily sit and look at his porn without worrying that he's going to get whatever spam through his email, and that was primarily what it's all about. It's safely browsing the net for them and not caring what they're doing.
It's all about the porn, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Well, you've just announced to the world what your family looks at on the internet, so nice for that.
And everyone else's probably, at least from the machines I've prepared. We always play this game. It's almost like the Hippocratic Oath, where it's like, well, yes, you want me to pretend that it was just you were surfing and these popped up, and yeah, this pretend game, and like, oh yeah, sure, you're the 12th person this week. Get over it. It is. The thing I've found for getting people is Puppy Linux is what I've done on a live CD or a USB, customized it with a couple of shortcuts, and then call it your emergency plan B. And especially since it will load into memory, it will take, I have a 10-year-old machine that runs faster than pretty much anything else because it loads everything into resident memory. And if you give me 192 megabytes of RAM, I can do Facebook on your machine faster on Puppy Linux than pretty much anything else. I mean, yeah, Slackware and all that stuff. And by doing that, it's a gateway drug with a lot of people, especially if you're just running a live CD or a USB, and you're not asking them to give up the devil they know for the devil they don't know. And that way, once they see it's fast, it really is the gateway drug, and they're like, oh my God, it's fast, I want to try this. And oh, my option is I throw the CD and I do it, and otherwise I run Windows. I have control. I'm a master of my own destiny. I can learn Linux at my own pace. Now I think we can do it with other stuff based on machines, but I don't know. I'd like to see if other people are able to do that.
That's all well and good, though. If people actually want to have a go, you know, if people don't want to make the change, you can tell them Linux, Fedora, Puppy till they're blue in the face, but they're just not going to try it, and that's what you need to get past.
Yeah.
You know, if people don't want to change, they're not going to want to change.
But if they ask us for help, we're the geeks. And my grandmother and my girlfriend can have me work on their Windows machine because I'm not dumb. And minus that, everyone else, no, there's a certain point that I will help that stuff just because you don't do it. I'm the geek. I only will do so much for you. There's a certain point that I think some of us geeks do have to kind of grab control, where my expertise does not do that. You're a mechanic. You don't have to fix my brakes for free. That's not quite how it works. Maybe we can work someone out, but you not understanding and wanting to read what a right click is doesn't mean I need to fix your machine because you can't grasp how to surf for whatever activities you want to do safely.
Yeah,
so there's a certain point that I think we can do a line.
It's interesting that you use the car analogy. I mean, if my dad kept driving his car into a wall deliberately, and I was a mechanic, after a while I'd get pretty pissed off and say, look, I'm not going to fix it. Stop driving it into walls.
I think I'm going to go with the 3 strikes you're out method. That sounds pretty cool.
I think that's pretty good.
Really well. Yeah.
Oh, that's stolen. I'm taking that now. 3 strikes you're out. That is like stolen, and I'm going to attribute it to one of my.
I mean, the main problems I've had are phishing emails. you know, you get the email, and it looks like a legitimate email, and you get the phone call saying, I've had this a legitimate email from a bank. Is it right? And then you go around and show them by hovering over the link that it's something like bigjubblies.net, and then you have to tell them, no, that's not right.
Website.
What was that site? No, I'm just kidding.
I don't think it exists. I've tried.
No, give me 5 minutes. No, I'm just kidding.
Turn your camera off first, will you? Yeah.
Right, so I'm going to have to mark this as 18 plus then.
Well, we haven't swore yet.
I'm just looking down at the thing, and we've actually got one viewer, so hi, one viewer.
Hey.
It's probably my dad.
I hope it's not my father-in-law.
Well, if it is, split screen porn chat.
Oh. All right. Well, we have one viewer, so that is awesome. We can refer to our audience, and especially if we use the royal we, we're good from a marketing standpoint. You know, because I'm wearing my marketing hat. I've just got all this marketing stuff on my brain.
Well, this is going to go to the my YouTube channel, so if you want to subscribe and like this when it's there, then you'll be informed of any other shows that we do. I'm planning on doing this weekly, you know, every 2 weeks maybe, depending on how available everybody is. But as you can see, it's just a gathering of like-minded individuals having a chinwag. That's a talk for you Americans.
Moody, let's talk about your involvement with Plymouth this afternoon.
I hate Plymouth. It's crap. I don't think actually it was anything to do with Plymouth. I think I was just mucking around with grub too much. And I've got Fedora on a USB stick, so I just reinstalled it. I gave up.
James,
When in doubt.
I have to say Moodoo is probably the best installer of Linux distros in the world.
Windows as well.
I change distros like I change my underpants, and it's been like this for the past 15 years. Anybody that knows me knows that I can't.
Underpants for 15 years.
That was one of the best parts of working at ZA Reason, was just testing different distros that we could see that could work on the hardware. And as is, I love System 76. They have their thing that they do. I wish they had some Fedora love, but ZA Reason really, I mean, they can do like 30 distros. I mean, even like the FSF, which is like a 4-year-old version of Ubuntu with like, I don't know, nothing. But, you know, all that stuff, we were testing all these distros, and it was just neat to go, I added 10 distros this week. I'm not sure any of them are ordered, but that was really fun, and seeing how different distros solve different problems and where they're awesome and where they're not.
I mean, I've just got one machine. It's my laptop, and that's the machine I use for day-to-day usage. So, you know, when I decide to reinstall, that's my main machine gone. But it's something I enjoy doing, so it's not really a problem. You know, I'll install Fedora, get annoyed with that, and then I'll install Ubuntu, get annoyed with that, and then it'll be back down to Debian, and then I'll go Windows, and then James will laugh at me.
Are you just a one operating system on your hard drive, or do you partition?
No, I just format the whole lot and start again. I don't,
You don't do
keep
partitions?
No, I just the whole lot, all or nothing.
Oh, do you do that logical file system? What do you do? I mean, what's your thing? ButterFS? What do you got?
Whatever the OS partitions it as. I'll just do a default install.
You just like clicking next. That's
right. Well, I think with Windows, you know, you click next, wait a couple of hours, click next, reboot, click next, install the updates. Yeah, but hey.
My advice on Fedora for a while has been click next on everything except for the LVM. Don't do that. Just because I've had bad experiences.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think my problems today with Plymouth was because I was playing around with Lux, you know, and the drive encryption. And, you know, when you start Fedora without from default, you get this nice little box in the middle of the screen where you can type in your password, but you piss around with Plymouth and Grub, and then you get it as text, and there's no way of getting it back that I could find. I'm set in my ways, and if I can't figure it, I'll just reinstall.
Yeah, repair or reinstall Grub. We're fancy now. Our Grub's pretty decent. We're not using Lilo unless we have to, and then it's okay.
I mean, Grub to edit is actually so easy. Edit a file and run the script to regenerate it, reboot, and that's it. It's done. A few second job. It's when you muck around with it so much by trying to add, graphics commands in, so you get the graphical boot, and it gets a bit confusing.
Right, guys, I'm going to shoot anyway. It's been nice talking to you all. Gotta go and do some stuff.
Yep. All right. Take care, James.
Right.
And, we'll see you next time.
Cheers.
And there were 5.
Yeah.
What picture were you trying to put on the splash screen? I gotta know, Moodoo.
It wasn't any particular one. I was just playing around with all the different themes. Solar. All the old ones. I wasn't doing anything special. It just went funny. I don't know whether it was because of what I was doing or whether it was to do with me playing around with drive encryption. No idea.
When in doubt, blame SE Linux.
I must admit, I didn't actually.
I'm gonna get so. I am a big set in force person, so like I joke about it. I understand what there is there, but yeah, when in doubt, it's SE Linux was more accurate 2 years ago. We've got a lot of that stuff going, but
I'm still in the 2 years ago mode where everybody says if you have a problem, disable it. And I think I'm still doing that now. Install it, disable SE Linux, and don't worry about it.
It's actually useful from what I've seen, and the messages kind of relate, and at least the majority of the time you get some useful human-readable information that you're able to solve in a non-Microsoft knowledge-based type crap thing. I mean, it's rather straightforward. I've been really I feel comfortable enough with people who aren't super techie to have them play around with SE Linux, and I wouldn't have said that 2 years ago. Depending on what their comfort level is, they've done a lot of work, of work.
The contexts are a lot better these days as well. Like when you I don't know if you run it on a server, you can easily configure applications to run with SE Linux a lot better than you could 2 years ago. So yeah, I mean, I do turn it off occasionally when it really frustrates me, but I try and persevere and get it right. So
I'm a permissive kind of guy. I like to see the errors. For example, I have it in permissive, and I put Nginx on my machine with Puppet, and that was not going to work. But you'd think something like Nginx, it would have the default context and everything like that, but it didn't.
Somebody's just sent me, put a link in the IRC channel. Stop disabling selinux.com. So if you want to take a look at that, apparently if you turn it off, you make Dan Walsh weep.
Dan Walsh is a nice guy.
That wasn't who I thought of or anything like that when I said it. That is going to be part of my marketing. Believe it or not, is SE Linux isn't 2 years ago, and it's on my list of many things that I've been researching on. So a lot of it is making jokes to do that, but yeah, I wonder if I'm going to get an email.
Major Hayden, that's whose website it is, major.io. He was the guy, or it's either hosted by him or he's created it. But yeah, stop disabling selinux.com.
Yep. That's being so shared on Twitter. Oh, that's just awesome. I just got to decide on what hashtags to use. Anyway, sorry, I digress. This is actually something I think that is another gateway drug for people that are thinking of using Fedora. I found is saying this is a good vehicle for you to understand some about SE Linux, and that's something depending on what areas you're thinking of going. There's some decent stuff you can learn. That's one of the skills that I have. Some of my smartest friends, when they're asking about jobs, will ask, do you know any SE Linux people? They know everyone else, but it's one of the harder things to get. So there's some rich joking material as well as opportunities with SE Linux.
Yeah, I think I'll disable it for now. Make Dan Walsh weep.
They cover a lot of it. They cover a lot of it in the RHCE and the RHCSA. Some of the base, well, it's pretty much the basics, but they will try and catch you out in the exam.
Have you done that, David? That
RHCSA. Unfortunately, they didn't. There was only a tiny bit of SE Linux. It wasn't directly SE Linux. It just happened to sort of overlap, but it was quite simple. But the whole of classroom's exam results were corrupt, so I've got to resit it again in November.
So from a certification standpoint, it's probably somewhat better to learn.
Oh, definitely. If you want to get an RHCE, you've got to have SE Linux skills, but not to a great extent. It's not. They don't make the exams unpassable, and there's quite a lot of topics in the exams. So I'm sure an in-depth discussion on SE Linux is probably out of the remit of the exam. There is actually an exam which does specifically cover SE Linux.
It's a specialty. I mean, it's a specialty if you want it to be, but my take recently has been to use it, you don't have to be a specialist. Whereas my feeling before was I felt like I was almost doing rawhide, where I need to be in constant interaction with people trying to figure out how to do stuff, and I'm trying to get things done and trying to do it where playing around with it, I've actually been able to use my machine or just disable part of SE Linux. Instead of the whole thing of, oh, I'm having a problem with this, and I've found that kind of useful, and then go back to actually doing things.
Mark, the thing is, they actually provide tools now which will even give you the command to run to enable the part that's broken. So things like SE alert and stuff like that, you just search the log file with that, and it'll give you the exact command to allow what it is you want to run. I'm not saying you should definitely run it, but if you're having problems, it'll give you the exact command to run.
Do we have any walkthroughs on that? Because I've been thinking that's an area that, just like we use testing for people to get involved, like, hey, you can contribute just by testing. Same thing with SE Linux as far as testing and also doing learning. But I think especially with the way that someone could be walked through it at the start, that would really be a way to get someone up to speed really quick, depending on how anxious they were to learn.
Well, I'm sure it's not. Sorry, Paul.
No, it's all right. Go ahead.
I was going to say, I'm sure it's not covered with Creative Commons, but the book on the RHC and RHCSA by, hang on.
Just while he's gone for that,
Michael
Jang. Sorry?
Michael Jang's books on RHCE and RHCSA. He's done about 6 editions now with the various iterations of the exams. And for Rel 6, it's really explained very simply, and there's a whole chapter on it.
So I'm.
Recommend. Sorry, Paul, I keep interrupting you.
It's all right. So, basically, what I was going to say was just for any new person to Linux. Mark, do you want to just give a brief what is SE Linux? Or is
security
it too complicated?
The way I explain security in Linux to most people is just that it's a way to secure your machine, and the analogy I'm able to use with most people is most people know of what NoScript is for a browser. and it's kind of like NoScript for a browser with a whole bunch of rules and additional things under the hood put on to keep your system working. And unlike how it's done with Microsoft, it's done, at least at this point, in a commonsensical manner in human understandable language, so that you can learn as you're doing it, is how I describe it. I think it's too easy to get caught in the technical part of it, which it protects your machine in various ways through thousands and thousands of man hours of development to secure things. But it's used by everything from governmental agencies to businesses that want to protect their data, to people that just want to make sure their credit cards are safe on their machine and things like that.
I think, Mark, perhaps some people wouldn't get what NoScript is. I think probably in the simplest way of defining it, it's similar to having file permissions. So say you've got a file on your desktop and you only yourself you want to read it and you don't want your wife to read it because it's a letter to your mistress. You change the permissions on it so that only the user, Dave, is allowed to access it. And this is kind of expanded upon throughout the whole system of the computer, so that any process, any application has a set of permissions around it that it has to adhere to, and that's what SE Linux does. It's the framework of those permissions. Is that a kind of is that a simple way of putting it?
I like that. Yeah, that's a good. I'm stealing that too. And that's why we have these, Paul, is so that people can. I mean, honestly, this is to get ideas and bounce things off each other and hear this. And this is very productive for at least us doing it, if not someone else watching this and getting an idea, or people in parts of the globe that don't have Fedorans around that can do it and get a couple ideas. This is a stone that's being dropped in the water that ripples out. You know, maybe that's the hippie idealist in me, but this really, we're learning.
Yeah, it's a good thing. I mean, it's going to go over to YouTube. You know, we're going to get more ideas by the comments on YouTube. You know, I'm going to share it to Facebook. You know, like you say, you know, it's going to ripple ahead. The more ideas we get, the more suggestions we get. We'll just go with it week by week, and then people either like it or they don't. We're just having a good time.
Good deal.
Now that James is gone, we are.
How is it working for James?
Good. Yeah, it's very good.
Yeah, and he's going to watch this later.
Yeah, let's leave it at that. Playing the diplomat.
Silence is sometimes the better part of valor.
I think I would do it odd if my boss was in this hangout with me, and I'd perhaps feel that I couldn't be myself. I don't know.
Well, the good thing about that is, I mean, I've known James from Fedora Chat way before he became a boss, so, you know, there's still the respect that you give your boss there, but, you know, he's a good friend as well.
Yeah, that's true. He knows what you're like already, so if he still wants to employ you...
and he's
I didn't mean that in a negative sense.
Well, I also think he's a handsome and talented young man, and he'll go far in his career.
I hope so.
Oh, we've lost Jonathan, so I don't know where he's gone.
He's probably answering the phone to his stepdad, his father-in-law.
Yeah, it's a good job we can't screen share. Although I think you can, but let's not. So, you know, Mark, just going back to the, you know, taking this forward and stuff, has anybody you know actually watched the other one we did?
My girlfriend did. And a few of her coworkers did. And her being very polite, it took me a second to figure it out, but she said something along the lines of, yeah, that seemed very like you were having fun. But she said, yes, they were all understandable. And I almost think she was doing that as a comparison with some of my other friends that are from Commonwealth countries whose accents aren't as understandable. So her and a lot of her Filipino friends were able to do that, or as I more not delicately put it, these are some limey folks I can understand easily and not need to translate as much. I mean, I've already got some of the vocabulary, like brill and pants and these things that I have to Google to figure out, and you know, I've got some of that. You guys use some words that we can't use here, and you know, things like that. But she liked, and on the serious side, she was able to say it seemed like a group of community people that were interesting. And that is also a comparison with just a lot of the Linux stuff that we've had that I've shown her, where it's like, yeah, I'll go to those events with you, but that just doesn't look at all interesting. These are people I don't want to deal with. Because we're talking about nothing at the same time we're talking about something. You know, I did have, you know, Courtney, some of you guys know her through some of the stuff. She used to work at Zavreason, and a few other people had a look at it, and they liked the casual nature of it. Was something that I got, and I also think that there's some other people that saw it and are just sort of waiting to see what it turns into, and they think their chances are it might be something interesting.
Well, hopefully it will be. You know, I mean, as you can tell just by watching it, most of it's unscripted, it's unplanned. We've got this hack pad that we spent ages coming up with lists and stuff to talk about, but you know, we're making it up as we go along.
The best way to do it.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
so
one of the main objectives.
I was going to say the one thing that I have some project wide ideas, but so for Europe and UK, my thing that I put on my list that I wanted to make sure to talk with you guys about in this event and kind of do at least as a somewhat regular theme is a focus on European and especially UK and local events and what's coming up, what just happened, that sort of thing. I really think would be, yes, this is more than just Fedora, but this is coming from UK, and it's important for very many reasons. So events, looking at the event list and stuff, what are some of your guys' visions on having events and stuff like that? I'm really curious on that and what you guys think the area needs.
It's funny you should mention that, actually. I just signed up to a talk I live in Manchester, and just signed up to a talk in Manchester by the guy from The Guardian who released the Edward Snowden files. It's on the 21st of September in Manchester, and they've got a couple of MPs talking there as well. It's billed as a Labour thing, but it's by the Open Rights Forum or something like that.
The ORG, the Open Rights Group.
Yeah.
Open Rights Group, yeah. So I'm going to head to that on the 21st, Sunday, 21st September. That looks quite interesting. It's been sent out to Manlug, so if anyone wants the details, just give me a shout. Welcome to meet up and go for a drink or something afterwards, or have a heated discussion about human rights and all that kind of thing. And the other thing that I signed up for as well is what me and John were talking about earlier, and I'm trying to get Moodoo to come along, is the Manchester Bar Camp. It's kind of like an unconference, billed as an unconference in Manchester, and that's on the 18th and 19th weekend in October. So that should be fun.
That's just after OggCamp as well, which is in Oxford. I think it's the 4th and 5th, or the 5th and 6th of October.
It's the 4th and 5th of October.
4th and 5th of October, and I've been involved in that for a few years now, and that's one of the biggest open source events in the UK, community-driven open source events, and that's well worth going to. And Fedora have had a booth there for the last couple of years as well. So
I would like Fedora UK to do a lot more events, you know, Fedora activity days, that kind of stuff. the problem is, unlike, if you know the Ubuntu community in the UK, that's massive. You've been in our channel for, a long time, and there's like 8, 9, 10 people. It's actually getting people into our channel, onto the website. You start, I've got a great idea to plan an event. I'm going to do one in Nottingham. You send out the feelers, and you get a reply saying, I'm interested, but that's it. Fedora UK is not a huge community, and that's a problem. You try to plan all these things. There's just nobody interested or nobody available to do it. That's been the case over the past few years. I've noticed nowadays, we're starting something like this.
I gotta go. My ride's here. No.
All right.
No, siren joke. Sorry, my bad. Go ahead.
Hang on a sec. So Fedora UK is not that big at all. And that's our problem.
The thing is, I notice at work, half the people at work use Fedora, but they're just not really interested in community stuff. They'll go to conferences and do talks on Puppet or whatever like that for commercial sorts of reasons, maybe to get the company name forward and that sort of stuff. But they're just not so interested in the community stuff.
Yeah, I was speaking to a chap called Graham from, I think the company's called Imagine in Leeds. They're a big MIPS development company, and they're massively into Fedora. And I said to him, I said, you should be getting into our community, become a part of our community. But he said, no, we just use it as a business tool. We do commit back. They do a lot of development and do push upstream, but they're just not interested in the community side of things at a business level. But on the other side, on the flip side to that is when I've done events like Bar Camp, Blackpool, or Odd Camp, the amount of people that actually come and stand and talk to you about Fedora for up to an hour is quite phenomenal, really. And I was at LinuxCon Europe last year, manning the Fedora booth there, and we actually recruited 2 new UK ambassadors there, which is that, like I say, it's the events that drive these people in, because they're the community style events that you go into, that where you can build the community around your project. That's how I see it.
I get excited by looking at the Fedora Planet, and to be honest, the Ubuntu Planet, and seeing what events people have been going to. Some events in the US, they're massive, absolutely massive, and I'd love that stuff type of thing in the UK. It's just getting it organised.
We need Ubuntu, and that's a dirty little secret, and we need SUSE in Europe in some spots as far as being part of the Penguin family, in my opinion. And the example I give is Jono and Princess Leia having an Ubuntu event here in San Francisco at the Thirsty Bear. You know what it was about? It was about beer and Jono telling stories and a little bit of tech stuff, but it was just, let's have beer and snacks. And we also do stuff with picnics. And I've got a few Fedora contributors through the Ubuntu events. The other part of it, just like giving code back, I'm not just going to steal from Ubuntu. Part of what I have to do is I promote some of their events, and they have social events. And if I'm going to do things in tech, I have to promote Ubuntu locally, and I imagine where I in Europe, probably some SUSE events, depending on the area. And I think that the partnership where we formalize this isn't a distro war is something that can work. But I think there's a little area, but it's basically, yes, I plan on stealing some of your contributors, but I'm going to give you 10 more contributors. So if I take 2, I brought 8 to your group. You're not mad. We're all friends. And let's have a beer and food. And I really think most, yeah.
Yeah, I planned just a fad in Nottingham, about 6 months ago, and it just went down crap. Nobody was interested. Just all I wanted to do was meet up in a bar. Like the Liz in San Francisco has the Ubuntu Hour. Just something like that with a penguin on a desk, and everybody can come to the pub, have a beer, chat about Linux. But non-starter, nobody wanted to come, and it's just getting more people interested and motivated.
More people come to my picnics than come to most events. And I don't normally say anything flat out that sounds as straightforward as this, but having had Geekniks for many years, geeks plus picnic, picnic equals geeknik, and at the bottom of the invitation it says you need not be a geek to attend, and people need to get there and then find out that geeks aren't scary people. But a lot of families, I don't drink, and that's probably a good thing, but I have beer at all my events because it's very important. But what we found, what was necessary after having to have beer events that didn't quite work, was having a picnic during the middle of the day with a Frisbee and whatever else you want to do and some music, and not doing a Linux picnic where you're doing hacking, although some people do that. You're outside and you're getting the families and the friends and our future geeks established. And you get the new geeks for Ubuntu or distros like that, and you get the people that, for lack of a better way, want to take the Linux diapers off and come and hang out with grown-ups and want to join Fedora. And that's really harsh for me to put it that way, but it sort of works out like that. And we have at least a third of the people that come to the events don't want to do anything geeky, will not volunteer, but help us by promoting it to other people and by 2 people away. That's where we get a lot of our volunteers. That's the missing key, is food. I say I could solve the Middle East problem with a picnic. That's an exaggeration, but food is a uniter. We all have to eat, and I think that's the missing piece. And yes, Princess has great Ubuntu hours, but not even a lot of Ubuntu people want to go to it because it's hanging out in a Panera Bread eating whatever. It's not hanging outside trying new recipes, and vegetarians trying new vegetarian recipes, and meat eaters finding out they like vegetarian stuff. And I've never tried this culture's food, and we have half women, and we have every minority group represented because we have this going on and all that. Then it becomes a self-fulfilling group that I actually have people complaining that I didn't have a picnic this month and last month. Things can change really, really quick. Trust me on this.
Well,
What
hopefully
sort of numbers
that's
do you get to your event?
Say that again?
So what sort of numbers do you get to your picnics?
We started hitting about 50 or 75 people, and we decided that was about what our comfort level was until we get sponsorship, and we've been holding off on sponsorship. Normally I'd say anywhere from 20 to 50 is what we get. I've had as little as 15 show up, but I remember we had 15 and it was half women. And that's part of the reason why you see me so uppity about a lot of equality topics, because you know what, you could talk's cheap. Everyone feels safe with my groups, and we have a sense of humor, and it's not politically correct, and we are this uniting factor of not dividing. And I think by doing that, it brings gamers together and Linux people, and we partner with other groups too for like some of the video or some of the cosplay people and stuff like that. We easily could get more than 100, and the Linux picnic that was going on here had a few hundred people showing up. About 50 to 100 is the magic number, depending on what you're doing, in my opinion, although I know we could get more.
Yeah, it's just the reason I ask is I set up the local Linux user group because I think Fedora was a little bit too specific. That's why I went for the log, and we generally get up to around 10 people to an event, and that's the social event. There's usually a few less, like you said, at the geeky events, but I think we'll always get lower numbers here, but it's something to work on, isn't it?
how do you get people past the fear factor? Because you can say, oh yeah, we're having an event. It's people. Oh, I'm going to be in a field with a load of clever people. I'm not so clever. Oh, I'm not going to go. How do you get people past that?
Initially, at the lug, we got a lot of that, but we got over it by just starting with a social event, meeting at a pub.
I think that's the key to it, not to bill it so much as a talk on some obscure aspect of something that someone doesn't understand, and bill it as like a get-together of friends meeting to share food or ideas, and then just sort of at the bottom put, we're also going to have a talk on something in time variety.
I mean, that's a good thing about this thing we're doing now. You know, we can get serious if we want, but you know, it's just a general chat with like-minded individuals, and there's nothing scary about us whatsoever.
Oh, I just saw a cat.
Yeah, that's Nitrogen.
Nitrogen, get him back. He was cute. Hello, Nitrogen. He's extremely long. Is he the long cat from the internet?
Well, he actually, in Filipino, I call him Muning Ulo, which means kitten head, because he has a kitten-sized head and a, here, let me show you, a really long body and a really big belly. But you can't quite, he's not being cooperative. But yes, I sit here and do my Dr. Evil and pet the cat and dream about a Shark Tank that like Mark Shuttleworth has for interviews.
It's so going to be a cat meme after this is finished.
It is. I just realized that. I was going to take a screenshot and I went, yeah, well, that's what I'll do later.
Yeah, I'm just thinking Mark, Pussy, and various other things all in the same picture, but...
Yeah. Silence is the better part of valor. I was going to say one more thing on the food and the gathering people. After trying all kinds of things, what we found was very inclusive was that we specify that since we're in the Bay Area, that we have a meat eater's grill and that we also have a vegetarian grill. And the meat eaters that I know like the idea that we do have a vegetarian grill. It says a lot about the group. Just as in some places, some people said it would be good for us to have kosher food. Well, we do have one grill now that's meat, no pork, depending on who shows up. And that says a lot about it. But one of the things in talking with David Ramsey from APAC and other people is we're missing recipes that are simple to do. So we've been working on recipes, and we've got other FOSS people, just little 5-minute, marinate some mushrooms, cook them on the grill, do this, do that sort of thing, take 10 minutes to cook, and then throw a Frisbee and do other things because, you know, hanging outside when it's nice is cool, or just having a potluck at a friend's house is cool, and trying new food. Everyone's pretty much tried beer, but you haven't tried so-and-so's new recipe. You haven't tried my smoked tofu recipe. Meat eaters love it. People view that as a challenge.
Yeah,
you know?
The thing about, you know, the current ambassadors we've got at the moment, I mean, the guys here, you know, we're all at different ends of the country. You know, we could plan, but it's actually, okay, where do we go?
Well,
you know, it's going to be a drive.
Paul, we're not that far. I mean, I live about an hour and a half from you and James. We could meet somewhere in the middle, like Edale in the Peak District or something, we could all go for a walk, go for a little hike or something around there, and then go to a pub or book a function room in a pub or something like that. Or just
it's probably a bad example. Me, you, and especially James, seeing as he lives about 20 minutes away from me.
I don't think I'm that far away from you either, David.
Daddy Shadowman has money and likes this kind of thing. And I think there's a possibility from talking with some people that I'm working on an event in APAC with trying to get Ubuntu and Fedora and whatever distros we can to try and do it and to have a picnic about it and to do things. And we're not paying for Ubuntu people to go, but if I can get some Fedora people to go to an Ubuntu event that has food and beer, hey, cool. I think that's part of it is we're part of a project that has money. And I'm not wanting to sound like a New York Yankee to use a sport American example, but we are the New York Yankees as far as we have the money, we have a lot of the stuff. If you have ideas, you can spend $100 or $200 on it and do that a few times before you're actually expected to have real results because we trust our contributors enough to let us do that. And if you need any help on doing any funding through any of the events, we have the regular regional funding and we also have a secondary funding for fads. I can help with some of the fad funding as far as planning for that. We have the money. We're Fedora. That's why I'm here. I'd be part of Puppy Linux otherwise. I love them, but they don't have the support that Fedora offers me. So let's, that's marketing for anyone else watching. Fedora spends money on us because we're awesome.
So just out of interest, Yankees is hockey, right?
It's that thing like cricket, except for I don't know what the hell's going on in cricket, and I can explain all the other games. And I played rugby, and I was a hooker, so I'm not just dumb American. I get hand egg in soccer and football, but yeah, it's that baseball thing where you like need to get drunk or like fall asleep. Yeah, that.
It's not actually bad if you play like 2020. That's like an hour, 2 hours max.
Yeah.
You know, it's better than the
Let's
full-day matches.
let's not bore our viewers by talking about cricket, please.
Do you know what they're doing now that sounds good? It's like baseball, but it's actually kickball, where you do it on the diamond, and you do that, and they actually unofficially call it slosh ball. And people in Texas that do it, they go out and they get drunk in the city because everyone's taking cabs anyway, and they just get drunk and play kickball. Well, one of my friends ended up winning the kickball tournament, and yeah, they were drunk half the time, but it's a neat bonding, fun. Let's go kick a ball. No one's getting injured. That sounds fun. The game's over in 45 minutes anyway. But yes, the Yankees are also known as evil, and people hate them because they have money to spend. Speaking as someone who's a fan of another baseball team, there's a lot of hatred because they can spend more money than anyone else. And I understand that. And I never understood what it was like to be a New York Yankee until I became part of Fedora and what that does. And when we come in the room, we have sponsorship. And when someone from another product says we're spending too much money on a room, it's nice to have a Fedora meeting and go, yeah, we're not buying the cheapest room like you guys do. We're not buying the most expensive, but we're not buying the cheapest. Daddy Shadowman's got our back with money, man. I can't emphasize that enough after being a few years here. If your idea is good enough, we'll try it.
So I was thinking, Moodoo. I mean, we could do something like meet in the Peak District or something. It's kind of central for a few of us. Like John says he lives nearby. I don't know where. Is it Matt? Matt, I don't know where you live, Matt.
Sheffield.
Sheffield, yeah, that's perfect.
That's not far at all.
And if we all said like we'll bring our family, and mine's rather small. I only have a fiance, and we bring a couple of friends who might be working in IT, and their missus and maybe
Mistresses, I thought you were going to say.
Mistress, yeah. So if we got everyone to like turn up with like 3 or 4 people, and then put it out to the logs and said everyone in the logs, bring your family. It's going to be more of a family-orientated thing, and we can still have some talks. And anyone who's into pies or Python hacking could entertain the kids with some sort of pie stuff that they do. Build a robot or something, I don't know.
Board games also fit in perfect with the family. Have a couple board games in. Yeah. Perfect. That sounds awesome. I wish I was closer. It sounds awesome.
I think we could quite happily do that. I mean, the weather's going to be a problem. It's going to have to be soon. But it doesn't have to be outdoors. I mean, we could go for a little walk around Edale or Castleton or something like that with everyone, or maybe go the Devil's Arse or something like that. I don't know.
I mean, I'm a big fan of Bakewell, and I mean, that's not far. It's about an hour from you guys up in Manchester, so I mean, that's a good walking environment. The town is good itself.
Yeah, I'd be happy to go there, and the tarts are excellent there.
Absolutely. Or if you're from Bakewell, pudding. Bakewell pudding. Don't call it a tart.
Oh, apologies.
Right. Well, guys, I mean, we've been doing this for an hour and 20 minutes, so I think, you know, let's wrap this up. I'm happy to do this again next week, or maybe in a couple of weeks. I guess we can have a chat about that.
We could try and stick to every 2 weeks.
Oh. Somebody's phone going off there.
My missus keeps texting me.
Are you still on that bloody computer? But anyway, so anybody that is watching, you know, thanks for watching. You know, it's going to go up on my YouTube channel. Please like if you liked it, and subscribe, and you'll be informed of any other ones that we do. Anybody got anything else to say? And if not, we'll just wrap this up. And
I was going to say one thing actually. With regards to the meetings, do you not think it'd be better to hold them on different weeks to the ambassador meetings, the Fedora ambassador meetings? just so people have, if you have an alternating week, people might find more time to attend.
I mean, it's not set in stone when we did this. I mean, the last 2 dates have just been randomly picked dates, and I think this one was done at 8 o'clock because, I don't know, somebody couldn't do it at 9 or somebody had something planned at 9. I mean, any suggestions are welcome. I mean, what's good for you guys? Is 8 o'clock all right, or would you prefer it at 9 or any particular day? I don't mind.
8 o'clock. I'd like to do it more frequently, actually, but I realise other people have commitments.
Yeah, I mean, I've got quite a young family, and generally it's only in the evenings when they're not around. So, but I mean, you know, it's all something.
I didn't realise you had a young family, so those pictures on the wall are not drawn by you.
No, you're giving away my secrets. No.
The secret club? Am I in the secret club now? Wait, here we go.
Ah. Yeah. All right.
Yeah, yeah, you know me. I can't help it.
That's my daughter would love that. She's Hello Kitty, isn't it?
Did you know
What the
that?
hell?
Where we were going then.
It's not that
Kitty.
kind of show, Mark.
I know, but I like Hello Kitty, and I figure I can show you my belt even if that's pants.
I think that'll do me for the minute.
All right. I think we're good, and then I want to bug you after for a couple ideas for APAC. Take about 2 minutes.
Absolutely, not a problem. So what I'm going to do is, anybody that is watching this, especially our one viewer, thanks for watching.
Join. Fedora join, if you're not already a member.
Yeah, that was something I was going to ask, actually. Anybody that's here, are we all Fedora ambassadors, to be honest?
Yeah.
How come you're not?
Everybody else is.
I am, and I'm also a mentor for North America. So if anyone happens to be in this area and wants to join, I'm one of the few. There's like
I'm actually trying to get my mentorship back.
Mudo is supposed to be my mentor, but then he decided he preferred Windows.
Well, I quit just for various other reasons, but now I'm trying to get it all back, and it's with Famsco at the minute. So hopefully they'll make a decision soon.
I'd be very happy to have you mention me again, Mudo.
Well, okay, that's it. I'm going to stop this now, and then we can carry on chatting afterwards, or we can just call it a night. So anybody that is watching, or anybody that watches this after it's uploaded to YouTube, see you next time.
Ciao.
See you later.